Okay, so now we come to the one that we've all been waiting for, which is the full or small bust adjustment, which I've got shown here. Now, there's a fair bit to understand before we start doing the adjustment itself, which is that patterns are sizing is based on two types of measurements, two variables. One of them is your frame, which is your skeleton, and that determines like the width of your shoulders, the length of your torso, the length of your arms, things like that. And then there's the other size determinant is the amount of padding that you have on your frame. There can be quite a bit of variation about how much padding someone has on their frame, and a full or small bust adjustment that we're going to show here accommodates or adjusts for different amounts of padding that you may have on your frame. The thing to understand is that a pattern designer will design to a certain cup size, usually either a B cup or a C cup. I'm going to work with just take as an example the C cup. A C cup is based on the difference between the circumference of your chest, which is your frame size, and then the circumference of your bust, which is basically a padding size. They're assuming a 3-inch difference between those two measurements, okay? And that is a C cup. Now, the important thing to remember there is that using that diameter for the frame size also determines the diameter, the size for the shoulder width, the torso length, the sleeve length, and a host of other frame-based measurements, which is why if you choose a size according to your bust size, and you're not a C cup, all of the frame measurements for that pattern size are going to be too large for you or too small, depending on how your padding varies. So what you need to do is, first of all, choose the overall size for your pattern based on your frame size, and then do the adjustment based on your padding size. So if, for example, your underbust is, let's say, 34 inches, a pattern designer is then going to design for a 37-inch bust size, and let's say, call that a size 12. If your actual bust size is, let's say, not 37, it's 39, that means you need to choose the size 12 because it's going to fit your overall frame, and then do a full bust adjustment to add overall 2 inches to that bust size. Remember, there's 2 of them, so you need to, you've got your left side and your right side. You want to add 2 inches, so that's a 1-inch full bust adjustment to your pattern piece. So 1 inch here and then 1 inch on the other side. I hope that makes sense. It's all written out here. First thing to do, so that you don't end up with a tent below your waist, is to cut about 1 inch above your waistline. Just cut your pattern. So like trace your size 12. Do that first. And then once you've got that traced out, about 1 inch above your waistline, cut it right off and set this aside. Now what you want to do is, with this seam allowance drawn in here, pick a point that's about 1/3 down your neckline and make a marking there. Also, the dart is drawn, and a dart is designed for the dart tip to end to be about an inch from your actual bust apex. You don't want the dart going all the way to your bust apex, because then you're going to end up with a real, you know, sort of like cone shape. You want the dart to end a little bit below, or about an inch away from your dart point, so it can just gently curve over your bust point, not end at a point right at your bust point. So if your dart tip is here on the pattern, measure an inch in, and there's your bust apex point. So draw a line straight up at right angles from this cut line to the bust apex point, and then angle to this 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 point, and then cut in like this so that you make a hinge. Okay, like that. You also need to draw straight through your dart, again making a hinge at this bust apex so that you can spread this like this, because if you just, we said an inch, there's about an inch like this, but now this is all slanted and you haven't actually increased the dart size at all. So if you make that about an inch and then straighten this down like this again, you see what you've done is that you haven't really changed the frame size of this at all. You've just added volume in here and in here where it's needed. Okay? Same with the small bust adjustment. If your bust was, let's say, 35 rather than 37, which was the designer's assumed bust, you'd want to decrease this by an inch, which would mean that you would overlap it, and then you would pull this up like this and making your dart smaller, and you, as you see, you've reduced volume here. So we're going to go back to the full bust adjustment of about an inch. We're going to level that off like that. So then you slide your tracing paper under there, tape it all in place, and when that's done, you bring this piece back like this and you tape it in place. Okay? Now you've ended up with a bit of volume here, but you want that too. In order to redraw this side seam, this gets a little weird, and I'll show you with the tissue because the tissue bends a little bit better than this. But basically what you need to do is you're going to fold this dart and then fold it down like this, and then extend, and you'll see that this line extends into this line just fine, like that. So that's how that works. And now I'm going to do it with tissue paper to demonstrate how this works. You can see I've already cut this off. So what we do is we cut like this, and then we cut up to here. This is a typical pattern piece for me. I've already had to do the wide shoulder adjustment on it. And I do this one, and then I'm going to cut right the way through like this. You don't need to be too exact with it. But again, we're going to slide that under there. We're going to do about an inch, and we're going to bring that down like that, and then take this in place. Slide that under there.
This is a present for a friend, so I don't roll it.
No, don't roll it and don't put it in the sun because it might ripple.
Okay, so I'll do that.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Like that. Now this has extended the dart tip out past, you know, the body was more like this. So when you get to this stage and you want to bring that other piece back, which I don't have right now, basically what you do is you just take your dart and fold it as if you're going to sew it, okay? And the dart generally gets, it's designed to be folded down like this, and you can now see that this is going to line up. This line, you know, it's going to extend. This line is going to line up better with what's down here. Trust me, it works. So that's your full bust adjustment.